Hi, Jakey Stief here, the long-haired freaky dude. Today I'm going to review the ancient Grecian tragedy play Ion by Euripides, translated into English prose by Edward P. Coleridge. This has got to be one of my favorite ancient Greek tragedies that I've read. Not the favorite, Bacchae holds a special part in my heart. But this was indeed a very unusual tragedy. It's very different from others that I've read, and I kind of struggled with figuring out what exactly makes it tragic, but it was still a very enjoyable story. Ion follows the life of an orphan, Ion, and how he comes to learn of his heritage. And then the play ends with a deus ex machina of sorts, one of Euripides' favorite literary tools, where we get a divine intervention from Athena, where she tells us how Ion will go on to create the Ionian races of Greece. The Ionians, they had cool columns, you know? With the swirly volutes and such. Oh, I just love Ionian columns. They're beautiful. Far superior to the Doric columns. Far superior to the Dorian columns. But I suppose the Ionian columns are inferior to the Corinthian columns. Yeah, anyway, with that in mind, this is more of an origin story, which we really don't see too much of in Greek tragedy. And in addition to that, there are no common themes of tragedy. There's no death, no broken hearts. Any that do get broken become mended. Everyone's happy, and they get what they want in the end. Ion finds out who his parents are, and Xuthus and Chrysa get a son like they wanted. So, perhaps the origin is the tragedy? These plays were often performed at the festival of Dionysus in Athens. And I'm pretty sure that around the time that this was written, the Dorians were the dominant Greek culture in Athens. So perhaps they've seen the Ionian origin itself as a tragedy. You know, if someone made a play about the early life of Hitler, for example. And it didn't include any deaths, it ended on a happy note, because, you know, it didn't show Hitler all grown up. I'm sure we would still call it tragic, because in the end we know what Hitler grows up to do. No matter where this play ends. I don't know. Maybe the Dorians were just jealous of their awesome columns. Anyways, perhaps I'm just searching to find out what makes it a tragedy where there is no tragic themes at all. Maybe it's just heaped into the pile of tragedies because Euripides is so commonly a tragic writer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this play specifically has to be a tragedy. That aside, there are a few more unique themes. And I'm really starting to understand why Plato found inspiration in the plays of Euripides. In Ion, we see an almighty god, an Olympian, Apollo himself, be defiled, insulted, questioned by a mortal, and the mortal gets away with it. Apollo is outright villainized in this play. His morality is put on trial. At the end, no one likes Apollo. And Apollo, being the jealous almighty god that he is, does nothing. It's definitely an interesting shift in the mindset of the Greeks from devout worship and belief in the gods to thinking of them as some kind of a joke. Also, this play has some incredible dialogue. Where the trend of plays before this are long back and forth monologues, we actually get what feels like a much more realistic exchange of words between two characters. Now, in Sophocles, there were brief one-line exchanges in dialogue between two characters. But here it actually dominates the play and occurs many times throughout. And between many couples of characters, not just the main guys. That in itself made it very enjoyable. And finally, probably in large part due to the great dialogue, there is some great characterization going on here as well. A brilliant exchange in emotions as characters flop back and forth in mindset. This emotional instability, instead of having one set emotion throughout the entire play, seems much more believable. And it's much more relatable. Because we don't just have one consistent emotion throughout an issue. We're always changing. We're always being swayed one way or the other on an issue. We're never exactly in the same spot. And I think Euripides is one of the first tragedians to awesomely portray that. Or to at least go out of his way to try to portray that. And now, here's just a few scraps of wisdom that I picked up from this play. Cease such idle talk and learn to be happy. Words of Xanthus. So often we complain about something that we're unhappy about that we forget to be happy about other things. The unhappiness dominates us. So I think what Xanthus says here is a generally good life code. And here's another. For rather would I have a virtuous friend of no great intelligence than a knave of subtler wit. Virtue is superior to knowledge or charm. Knowledge can be good or bad. Knowledge can be used for tremendous evil, but virtue is virtue. Virtue by its very nature cannot corrupt. Knowledge needs virtue, but virtue doesn't need knowledge. Plato deals with this matter of knowledge and virtue a lot throughout his dialogues. Just a few you might want to check out if you want to look more into the philosophy of this matter, which really shows how these, by the way, these tragedies are very philosophical in themselves, Euripides and Sophocles and Aeschylus. The actual strict philosophical works on this matter, stuff like Locus, Protagoras, and so on. So my questions to you are, what sort of philosophy can be found in this tragedy of Euripides? Do you think that it's poor to label this play as a tragedy? I think so. And finally, what do you think makes this Ionian origin story so special to the Greeks? To the Athenians especially? Well, I'm J.K. Stief, the long-haired freaky dude. Thank you for watching this video. If you like to read other great books like this, such as plays, tragedies, philosophical works, science, math, all of that great stuff, might I suggest taking the Great Books Challenge. I'm sure it's something you'd love to do. If you want to see even more content, other book reviews, typewriter tutorials, headbanging to classical music, you know, man, might I suggest subscribing to my channel. There will be many, many great videos in the future. Well, I'm J.K. Stief, the long-haired freaky dude. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.